So you came into office in 2011. And as it stands today, there are 29 fatalities listed since 2011. In every fatality case, those in which you have authored a charging decision letter, you ruled justified. There are presently 18 officer-involved shootings. As of today, as of yet, you have not produced a charging decision letter going back to 2013, Francisco Gutierrez, and pending January 1, 2013. In the case of Alex Nieto, he was shot at 59 times, with 14 of those bullets piercing his body, and it was ruled a justified use of force. Mario Woods was shot at 41 times, with 21 of those bullets piercing his body, and that was December 2nd, 2015, and the charging letter has not been produced as yet. Of the 18 still pending, 13 of those cases were Black and brown young men and women. All cases under your tenure as the DA of San Francisco, there are no reports listed on your website. The grand jury report indicated and said this in regards to the DA's office, that the DA should give officer-involved shootings priority, that all city agencies, including the district attorney's office, is doing an inadequate job of informing its citizens in San Francisco in regards to officer-involved shootings. Everyone knows that the many experts who sat on the blue ribbon panel, the grand jury, and the cops report in San Francisco that there is bias policing and inappropriate use of force when it comes to Black people and other people of color. There have been racial disparities in arrest for years, and nothing has happened, except we see now that a disparity of Blacks who are in jail and in prison. We, as the community, say we want justice, and we want it now. And so again, thank you for coming. That was our introduction as a community as a whole, and we're ready to hear from you.
Sure. So as to the grand jury report, we worked with the grand jury very closely, and we agree with their findings. A problem that San Francisco's had for a very long time is that there has been an understaffing of the office when it comes to dealing with officer-involved shootings. The average of 2 years have been occurring for many, many years, way before I got there. There has not been a police officer, prosecutor, and an officer-involved shooting in San Francisco in modern history. When I became the DA, one of the commitments that I made prior to my becoming DA, the reports that were provided to the police department were confidential. And I made a commitment, which I have followed, that our reports on officer-involved shootings will be public, and they have been made public since 2011 on the cases that the investigations took place from the time that I have been the DA. Now, what the grand jury said, and we agree with them, is that our website is hard to navigate, and it was not very easy to get to these things. And we are working to alter that. We're working on that on two fronts. Number one, we are working on the structure of the website. And number two, we're working also on the structure of the reports, the way that the reports are going to be written. And one of the things that I'll get in a moment is that I'm introducing people that have been hired to lead the new Independent Investigation Bureau, which is going to be the first one of its kind in the nation, where District Attorney has been funded, and we're hiring people to have a unit that will be, their primary function will be investigating officer-involved shootings, in custody death, and any allegations of wrongful conviction. Now, that unit is being, as we're speaking, is being created, and we have a couple of the members from that unit here that they will be able to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves. So we totally, and I personally agree with the grand jury findings that our reports were hard to find on the website, but they were public. Some of the more controversial shootings, I've actually held press conferences. As a matter of fact, I held a press conference on the Nieto case. We went through a great deal of work to investigate that case and come up with a conclusion that while the tragic outcome is very real, and anytime there's a loss of life is going to be tragic, the shooting itself occurred within the law, and we don't make the law. We simply work within the law. In that case, as a matter of fact, not only was within the criminal law, but then that case was taken to a civil case, which the standard of proof is much lower. In the civil case, the jury also found in favor of the city and found no wrongdoing in that case. So that is a case that unfortunately the facts may not be what people would like to hear, but they are what they are. We don't make the case, we simply investigate a case. There is a significant backlog. Actually, there are 20 cases that are backlogged. And the first order of business for the unit will be to clear the backlog. And I anticipate that that's going to take approximately 1 year, plus whatever other cases occur between now and the end of 2017. And our goal is, once we finish with the backlog, and I'm looking at approximately the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018, that we will have a deadline for us for those cases that will be somewhere between 90 and 180 days. And the reason why I said 90 to 180 days is because sometimes it takes the medical examiner 3 or 4 months to provide a report. Sometimes it's taken them longer. And occasionally in these cases, we are dependent on the work from the medical examiner in order to do our final findings. So it is a work in progress, but frankly, we are here today at a much better place than San Francisco has ever been. There has been funding to create a unit. The unit is being created, and the people that are being brought to that unit will have a tremendous amount of experience. And the people in the early stages already are here. If you like now, I can move into the Blue Ribbon panel unless you want it.
No, we have 2 mothers here, and I don't know if you ever came face to face with a mother's pain, but we have 2 mothers. One, Mario Woods' mother, Gwen Woods, and then also Dolores Piper, and they want to address you and say a few words. I don't know who would like to go first. You want to go first? This way? I don't think it's on the screen.
If you saw the video of Mario, and really I wanted to look you in the eye and say, did you look at the video of Mario?
Over 100 times.
That was so totally evil and wrong. I said I would never minimize my child's death, because it wasn't a death, it wasn't a murder, it was an execution. I think when we hear you, it sounds good in theory. It really does. We would pray that you would step away and do exactly what you say, but you're dealing with a community that have heard all the jargon, to not see anything come to fruition. You have officers with pending investigations. I don't understand that. How they end up on the San Francisco Police Department. I've had mothers come to me and say, Miss Woods, one of the officers that shot your baby in the back of the head shot my child. My child survived by the grace of God. There's an element there, and if you don't begin to prosecute, they feel they're above the law. I've said this once, twice, and twice. If I go to work and I email racist, sexist, or homophobic, zero tolerance policy. I'm also concerned that POA, there's another name for them, they're bullies.
They are bullies.
They intimidate everyone. They're going to step up, and we saw what they did the last year, how they attacked everyone, even me. My child's a thug, I'm a thug, They feel so carte blanche that even when they got off with Alex Nieto, they had the audacity to go online and say, go burn down his mother's home. And they had the audacity to say, go kill his friend who reported them. They've run so amok in my community. We've always had the memo, always had the memo. What has just happened with City Hall, in 850, you had the memo, you just didn't open it up. We've always had to endure. I've had more young black male men tell me by the time they pull me over for nothing, their hands are already on the trigger. They're policing us differently.
That's right.
We have to acknowledge that fact. But again, they're carte blanche. You can call me, and my dad was naval. I say this story so many times. It was naval here in San Francisco. I was 7 when the Navy sold out the Sunnydale and in the Hill when we start buying our homes. And he left Beaumont, Texas for what is happening here. I would like to think that this is more than just talk. I don't know what to tell Mario's 2 brothers, because everything is this trigger now. When I hang up the phone with them, I don't know what's gonna happen. Everything is a trigger effect. This is how they live, this is how we live. And I know it's easy for people at 850 and to throw that jargon out, and my father hated this, because I knew at the end of this word, somebody was lynched by it, nigger. And they just ran amok with it. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to execute people where you can take one person and you cannot not equate that racism of how they treated my child. And when I saw it, that moment, I said they did what they said they would do. They executed my child like an animal. And they said it according to their emails and text messages.
That's right.
My prayer is that God, you guys go out and you do exactly what you say. All I can do is just give a plea to you. What the people are needing is something.
That's
Throw them
right.
a bone, something,
Prosecute.
Justice.
something that shows good faith, that politics doesn't matter over my child's life.
That's right.
Because it looks like that. At the core, it looks like that. That little stance where Mario is. Mario's very small in stature. Those big officers. I'll never get that out of my memory. Never. Always have to at some point stand against Goliath. They're run amok. San Francisco has run amok. Please, please, do something with them. Do something. Shut it down. Don't walk out of here and think it's business as usual. We are suffering.
First.
Go ahead, Dia.
So, Ms. Woods, first of all, let me assure you that your pain is something that is very real to me personally and to some of the people that work around me. And I cannot tell you how offended I was by the video. And I have said that very publicly. Having said that, we have to conduct an investigation with the tools that we have. If you look back through my work on the past 6 years, there are plenty of evidence that I have stood up over and over again to correct wrongdoing when I have seen it. As a matter of fact, those text messages that you talked about became public and resulted in a blue ribbon panel because I made it an issue. And that triggered an unprecedented investigation that led to the Blue Ribbon Panel. And if you read that report, you can see all over that report how the panel, and there were a very incredible group of people, right? Not only the 3 judges, which were incredible in what they brought to the table, but all the lawyers. There were, many, many lawyers that worked on this. And I was able to get people to donate their time. There was over $1 million in donations of time. And it was probably one of the most sweeping reports and the indictment on what is going on and what had been going on with the police department. And frankly, I believe that caused the cops office to finally come in and some of the other reforms that are beginning to take place. I also have to tell you, because I like to be fair, I believe that the current chief of police is committed to implementing the reforms that the cops office and the Blue Ribbon Panel have brought up. Now, moving large organizations and shifting a culture is not easy. It takes time, and part of it takes the work of community like we have here, and frankly, it takes people like me standing up and speaking up when we see wrongdoing, which I have done many times. You mentioned the police union, and frankly, I think if you ask around, I have been the target of vicious attacks by the police union. They have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in radio ads, spewing falsehoods. They're not doing that because they like me, right? They're doing it because actually they feel that I am a threat. And you know what, I'm fine with that, because if doing the right thing is threatening, then I guess I am threatening. The issue of racial disparity is one that I have spoken very, very openly about. And again, if you go back to the Blue Ribbon Panel, there was no holding of, talking about the fact that we, not only as a nation, but here in San Francisco, have experienced police work and the criminal justice system in general that have treated African American and poor people very differently than they treat others. I just want you to
Stop it with giving yourself credit, man. Stop it. You're making me sick. Probably everybody else in here. Stop it with that. I'm sorry, Phelicia. You can take my question out of it, because I'm gonna go right now. I'm tired of this soft little voice. You know what I mean? That you think that when you represent white supremacy right here, brother, you come in with these people of color. You know what I mean? Like you come to show them off. Like, we got a board of supervisors full of people of color and women, and they ain't doing shit. You understand that? So this don't mean nothing to us. It doesn't mean nothing to us. We have a mother here that's going through something. You understand that? You nodding to her like it's all over. I'm gonna tell you this much. What we did with Greg, sir, and Ed Lee, and stayed on his heels and exposed him, we're gonna do the same to you if you keep playing this role like you need expertise to know that that was a murder. You need an expert to know that? You need to go further in transparency to know that that was a murder? We're gonna be on you, and I swear on everything that I love. We're gonna expose you. All this good that you're talking about you've done, and all this, you want credit and a pat on your back, that don't go nowhere. You act like we don't live in San Francisco and see what's going on. You were a pig. You were a chief of police before Greg, sir. So if you believe in that, you ain't with us. You better stop. You just don't got your uniform on no more. I'm sure you have lunch and dinner with these pigs. So you don't fool me. You understand that? That's it.
He's afraid of the police.
Okay.
He's complicit in murder and should be locked up. He's complicit.
Okay, so we're, thank you. We want people to be able to express themselves, and so DA Gascon, what we want to ask of you is that, we know that you want to respond, but in your responses, can you kind of cut it short? Because we're angry, we're hurting, we're suffering. And, and agreeing with Equipto is like, okay, Attorney Wong looks good, and Darby Williams, you look beautiful in your blue suit, but the thing of it is this. Excuse me, Archbishop. Excuse me. Let me just finish. Can I finish my point, please, sir? So the thing of it is.
Now the crew you got here, very polite.
So the thing of it is, as a community,
For a year.
we invited you down here. One is because we're hurting. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we want justice. And the thing of it is that you and the rest of these politicians, you have to begin to listen and work with the people and not work against us with all this jargon.
Before we get started, some of the community members are going to be asking questions, but I have two quick questions. We met with you back in January, I believe it was, of 2016.
Hard to hear you.
I was trying, is that better? Okay, so we met, the Justice for Mario Woods Coalition met with you in your office back in January of 2016, and I know that you said here tonight that you couldn't get into any specifics about the investigation, but can you tell us what progress has been made in the investigation since we met with you almost a year ago?
So the work has continued. There has been, we spent quite a bit of time trying to get access to the original camera that took some of the photographs. Quite frankly, it took quite a bit of time. We have done some enhancement work. The work is now being transferred to this new unit, and they are taking over. And we anticipate that, I don't want to give you a timeline because I don't, but, there's several cases that are being worked together. And, we will come to a resolution in that case as soon as we can.
Okay. My second question is, who is the final authority in this independent unit? Does Andy Wong get the final say on charges being filed?
Well, the final decision in the office is mine.
What is the legal standard for bringing criminal charges against an officer for an officer-involved shooting? It's kind of two-part. And do you take into account the officer's previous internal affair history?
Let me answer the second part first, because the officer's prior history generally is not going to play a part in a criminal case. Criminal cases and administrative cases are very different. But
Why is that?
Because the law-
when I get in trouble, they go off of my record.
off the record for
When I get in trouble, when I've been to CDC, I've been dedicated better than 20 years of my life doing in some of you guys' best facilities. And every time that I was sentenced, it had everything to do with my past.
for sentencing.
Criminal cases.
For sentencing. Yes. The comment is.
Take for the charges to be pressed, not this long.
The comment was, for sentencing, my prior criminal record has played a role. And yes, it does. But not for the decision to prosecute a case or not.
So if an officer has numerous assaults, and I wanted to press charges or make statements against officers, but I was scared because of the life I live, because they'll still run back into you. What I'm saying is the people that have took the time and put the energy into going down there pressing charges and all of that. So what weight does that bear?
Well, first of all, let's make sure that we do not confuse administrative complaints with criminal complaints, right? If an officer has a criminal history.
If he's not convicted of it, it's just.
Exactly, and if hasn't been tried and convicted, he has no criminal history, and frankly, most police officers are not going to have a criminal history. We would only look, just like we look for anybody else. If we're looking at a case coming off the street, the first thing that we look is we look at the evidence on the case. The prior criminal history only plays a role when you are sentencing or when you're enhancing a case. It doesn't impact the original prosecution decision for anybody.
Well, wouldn't it make you kind of like you're drawing a picture if he's got 10 incidents that he's never been?
We don't have access to administrative discipline. In California, hear me out because this is really important. The Police Officers Bill of Rights, shelters and officers, discipline history from access to anybody, including prosecutors. So we do not know whether an officer has prior disciplinary history nor do we get to use that in order to prosecute a case.
That's why there's no police officers with criminal records. To answer his question.
That's right.
You never charge police officers.
It's time for accountability. They need to have accountability. Without accountability, and that's the one thing you have not said in all of what you're saying, is there's no police accountability, and they can't give it, and you're not willing to give it, and every time any one of your blue ribbon panels come to church, the first thing they say is there's a lack of accountability, and nobody's discussing it. It's like it's this great big thing on the wall that nobody ever looks at, and we demand accountability, and that comes from you, not from anybody else. That comes from you.
If you follow the trajectory of the work that I have been doing for the last several years, is all about accountability. In fact, you would not have most of the information that you're talking about today about text messages, but for the work that I have done in my office.
I don't believe that.
This unit, well, you may not believe it, you don't have to, but it's the reality, right? This unit would not be in place but for the fights that I engaged in order to get the funding for this unit.
Because there hasn't prosecuted anybody.
So let's, excuse me, community and DA, let's bring it back.
On the case of Mario Woods, as well as many other cases, we are going back, and one of the reasons why it's taking so long, because we're not taking a police investigation, we're conducting our own investigation. And when we come up with a final outcome in Mr. Woods' case, as well as many other cases, it will be based on our own investigation. The problem that we were facing is that we were coming after the fact often. And we hope moving forward that we will not, that we will be on the front and that we will be the lead investigator.
So why should the community trust your office to make a fair and impartial investigation into the shooting and/or decision about it when you work with these very same officers on a day in and day out basis?
I think you need to look at the reports that are going to be posted. I think you need to evaluate the work that is being done by this unit, as well as some of the work that has been done recently, and you will have to make your own judgment. I can only tell you that we are in earnest, committed to doing this right.
And as far as the investigation and you telling us, look at your track record and the things you've done and, exposing the text message scandal and all that, all these officers are still working. As far as looking at your track record, not a single police officer has ever been charged. So when you ask us to look at your track record, that's what we see. We see that not a single officer has ever been charged for murder. And it's hard to believe that in your tenure as DA, that not a single police officer, did anything wrong in every case that was always justifiable. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And as far as the Peace Officers Bill of Rights, the California Police Officers Bill of Rights, if that's what's in your way, then you need to say that and change it and fight against it, because you're not really fighting for justice.
Are you fighting
then.
against it?
Okay.
Yeah.
How?
So, Senator Mark Leno introduced legislation last year. I was the only law enforcement person in the state to sponsor and support it. It went down in flames, it did not pass. I personally think that the Police Officers Bill of Rights needs to be modified. But that is something that has to occur in Sacramento. I can tell you that Mark Leno tried really hard. I can tell you that I am on the record. In fact, I stood with him on the podium on the same day to support him, wrote letters of support, provided testimony in favor of that, and never went any. Okay? As to whether my office has ever prosecuted police officers, I have. And we have gotten convictions for excessive force. And we're in the middle also of a major prosecuting case right now. So it is inaccurate to say that we have never prosecuted anyone. And we are moving forward to be able to create the conditions to look at these cases in a much more closer way.
But why does it take 2 weeks to prosecute people from our community and years go by? Why is there such a discrepancy like that?
It's
It
a
doesn't
very-
take So this law.
A typical homicide case in San Francisco is taking 3 to 4 years to resolve for anybody.
How long is it charged though?
Okay.
It's charged within a week.
That's
Well,
right.
it depends on the conditions. We are bound by law that if the person is in custody, we have to charge a case within 48 hours.
So put the cops in custody.
Look, I am not here to tell you that the system has worked well. I have made many times my feelings and my belief known that I believe that the system is in sore need of reform. And I have put myself where that counts. Okay, now you may not agree with it, and that's fine. You know, we all have a right to believe in our own set of facts. But the reality is that the obligation that we have is to have a sincere conversation with those kids. And we need to take it from A to Z. And when the officers do something that is unlawful, we need to educate them to that. But when the officers are also doing things that are lawful but may not necessarily be appealing, there has to be that conversation as well.
But you got to put Mario Woods in the forefront. Not to say that all the rest of the murders are not important. But we've been putting a full court press on this city, man. We even got behind you when you needed us, so to speak. When we huddled up and said, we're going to support you, and wherever you need to go, whatever we got to do to the community to push on, whoever we need to push on, we'll be there for you. We did that. I remember that. But it ain't working out, man. You ain't talking enough. You ain't saying enough. You're not doing enough. You need to step up to the plate, you know what I'm saying, and put a full court press on these police. Talking about, because you just said that you seen it 100 times. You told Gwen you seen the video 100 times. If you seen that video 100 times, then why ain't no police in jail? Dr. Williams.
I think that
Drawn and only 5 officers
Let me
shoot.
ask something, please. That's not what I'm saying, because I do believe that accordingly, everything before Mario's video and after, you have to ask yourself. I even told the mayor, now you have to ask your mayor. You trusted your police department too much when they said they were in fear of their life and threat. Everything is now questionable.
Right.
Did they lie? Was it true?
Bullshit.
I wouldn't even want, because you have Alma Carr and Kenneth Hart, you have all these bodies. And dormant.
Jessica Nelson Williams.
I think what our community say, throw us some kind of bone, something to say that, guess what? The lives matter. Not even if it's my baby yet. Alma Carr, Nieto, Hardy, Idris Steele. Something. You gotta give us something. Just something, I think it's what we're saying. Something. We're desperate, so it's like you're preaching to the choir right now.
Yes.
So it's kind of on death. It's like, my son's gonna tell me later, it sounds good in theory, Mom, but you know, nothing's gonna happen. We shouldn't be that complacent and okay with this. Something should happen. Those guys are on death duty. Again, something should happen. So we're at this place. No, even if not my baby, if you just show some good faith in something, because I voted for you, because I think at the core, when I voted for you, Jay Gascon, decent guy. I'm very particular about what I vote and what I stand on. But nobody gets carte blanche, but somebody has to finally say, guess what? We're going to do justice for one body. If it's one body at a time. Even if my baby is number 5 or 6 on the totem pole, something.
Justice.
Something.
Justice.
And that's all I'm
Justice.
saying.
You got it.
It's time to go out. Give us somebody. We have no hope now. We have a community with no hope. This is what you get. So now, I don't even pray. I'm pleading. Throw us something. And that's where the passion comes from. We don't get nothing. We get insulted by the cops.
Just waiting.
They feel it's okay. They offend us. They talk about us, they talk about our families, they talk about our babies. And I think that's what you're saying. Just something. Just something.
You give them a license to do it.
Mrs. Woods,
have to do something.
this people that are here to my left would not be standing here today but for a lot of the work that you and the community have done. There was no appetite to fund this kind of unit. I think it's important that you give this process some time, but I think it's also.
Hold on.
You want action now? No, that's bullshit.
You don't have time. You look like you getting old. What you talking about? You don't have time. You don't have time.
Hold on.
I think it's important that you know that this is a result of a lot of your work.
Then I'm
So
doomed.
take
'Cause I'm
credit for
grasping at
that
hope.
because
So when you leave here, my hope is yes. Go out there and make a difference. Show them, show us. Gotta get these cops are run amok. They're rogue. They're worse than the thugs that they called me and Mario. Just throws a bone. I go with hope. I'm not here to offend or insult anyone. I got the biggest insult of my life when I saw my baby, and now I have to Google him. And the last image of him is being cowered in that corner, begging for his life. And they didn't shoot him from the front, they shot him from the back. He took 20 of those bullets from the back. The only bullet was in his leg from the front. So you saw him fearing your life, but you're shooting from the back.
Yeah. How is that legal?
Imagine that. And the 9 officers